So today we are going to talk about the most loved and hated topic, which is cryptocurrencies. We have invited Chris Long, who is the trainer for Crypto Knight Armor series, to share with us his views about the trends in cryptocurrencies.
Hi Chris, so how did you get started in cryptocurrencies?
I was actually working in a bank before this. I was doing something called debt capital markets, which is investment banking. The hours were really long, and one day I just thought, you know what, I need to get out of this cycle. So I went to look actually first at stocks. So in the midst of searching for it, right, I came across Bitcoin, and during that time it is I think $700 or $800, and it really got my attention because when I was studying university, right, it was $1, and I thought, oh, this cryptocurrency or electronic cash is not gonna last. It's probably fake. But who knew? After 7-8 years, it is still here and it's 800. That is what caught my attention. Started reading about it, learned about blockchain, and realized it's actually something very revolutionary. So from there, I went in, started investing, and had a pretty good return so far. Yeah.
So since there are so many asset classes out there with longer established track record, and there's always this constant worry about cryptocurrency longevity of it, right? Like what you just shared just now, right?
Right.
Why do you have that kind of confidence that it's going to be a valid asset class for investment?
Right, so great question. Actually, contrary to what many people think, majority of my investments are actually in stocks and shares, the blue chip companies. So how I do it is that I proportion my risk. Cryptocurrencies are new. Anything that's new, that's infant, have a higher risk profile compared to more established asset classes. But for me, I think what I want to avoid is that I want to avoid missing out. So if I could go back in time and I think about how people invested in the internet, or even when the bubble burst, there were actually some pretty good companies out there that even if you had a small exposure to it, right now it would have been a terrific return. So one case is Amazon, right? If my memory doesn't fail me, I think it dropped to maybe $10 or less during when the internet bubble burst, and now it's more than $1,000. So even if you had invested just $1,000 then, it would have been a 100-fold return. It's not much risk to take for such a good return, right? And in technology, everything moves really fast. Look at Alibaba, gone up more than 100% since IPO. So for me, it is, after I've done my research, I feel that this is something that the world has a use for, something that people can find value in, manage my risk a little bit, and just start. Yeah.
Would you advise or recommend what is a good number to limit that exposure to cryptocurrency in a portfolio in terms of percentage?
I think it depends on a number of factors. First, as an investor, so just by talking to you, you are very young, should be very tech savvy. I think a good number for someone that is perhaps a millennial, maybe Gen X, to start with maybe 5% just to get a flavor first. However, if you belong to a category of people that really have no knowledge of technology at all, then I would say go even smaller, because really you are investing in something you don't understand. I think the best and the first investment that one should make before actually even investing in stocks, equities, bonds, or cryptocurrencies, the first investment a person should make is to educate themselves. Invest your time, maybe a bit of money in a book or course to learn about this asset class first. So from there, I think you're better able to gauge what your risk appetite is, better able to gauge even whether or not you want to invest.
Bitcoin has been breaking new highs, and just today it crossed $12,000, right, US. Okay, and at this point in time, there are people who dismissed it as a bubble. So, is it too late to invest in Bitcoin?
I think the problem with asset classes that are very, very bullish is that it keeps hitting new highs. So when Bitcoin went from $1 to $10, everyone said it's a bubble. When it went from $10 to $100, everyone said it's a bubble. When it went from 100 to 1,000, they say it's a bubble. 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, and now 12,000 is a bubble. So I think that it is not an easy question to answer. But if I stop and think about how many people are there actually using Bitcoin, how many people are there are understanding the technology behind it, and I think about the publicity that has been given out, the awareness ever since it has hit 10,000 US dollars, my personal opinion is that we may just be at the start. Because the reality is we never are able to predict the future, but the fact that it is still relatively unknown. In fact, even people who read about it or know about it, they don't know how to invest it. So what happens when all these people, they start to find out and they start to come in? And Bitcoin in relation to gold, for example, the market capitalization is still much smaller. It is billions versus trillions. And we're not even talking about US dollars or fiat currency. So I think there's still room to grow. But as a disclaimer, that's my opinion. Everyone should still make their own research or do their own research before investing.
So besides Bitcoin, there are so many other cryptocurrencies. So let's say one person has $10,000 to invest in cryptocurrency. How would you allocate that among all these cryptocurrencies out there?
When it comes to cryptocurrencies, most people just define it as cryptocurrencies, but really we have crypto tokens, we have crypto assets, we have the actual cryptocurrency itself. So that's my own personal take on it. If we look at altcoins, and altcoins are anything that is not Bitcoin, each of these altcoins actually have probably a business idea behind it or technology that the team is trying to develop. So it is likened to angel investing, or you're investing in a tech startup. I think that the best way for me personally is to invest mainly in the large cap stocks. So maybe I'm thinking 50%. So if it's my own portfolio, probably 50% will be in Bitcoin. Perhaps 20% will be in the next one, which is Ethereum. It's like Bitcoin 2.0. And the remaining 30%, I would actually keep 10% in cash in case there are some trading opportunities. And the remaining 20%, I'll spread it out over 15 to 20 different altcoins just to diversify my risk. And I'll hold long term, because the thing about cryptocurrencies is if it rises and if it works, you're not talking about 100%, 1,000%. You're actually looking at 10,000% or even 20,000%, which is 200 times the gains. So if you have 10,000 and if you put even $100 in an altcoin that goes up 100 times, we are looking at $10,000, which is a 50% gain overall. And you kind of almost have 20 shots at it if you use 2,000 to diversify it out. So that's my personal take on the matter. Yeah, but I think majority should be in the bigger cap cryptocurrencies.
So what are resources that a beginner can use to find out more about cryptocurrencies?
The internet is a great place to start, right? Since it's after all cryptocurrencies. I use a website called weusecoins.com as a start. It gives a great breakdown of how the blockchain works, how Bitcoin works, and it's written in a simple to understand manner. There is also Bitcoin Wiki, which gives you more detailed information about Bitcoin. So to my understanding as well, aside from myself, there are a lot of trainers that are in the industry right now who are giving training. I think you can do a search to look for some people with better reputations, to go and listen to their classes or to learn from them. Several books on Amazon as well. I don't personally have a favorite, but I think that if you go Amazon and look for one of the higher rated ones, it should be a great place to start. Yeah, but weusecoins.com for complete beginners. It's good.
So thank you, Chris, for your time and your valuable sharing with us and the audience. Okay?
Thank you for having me.
Hope to see you in future sessions, and all the best in your training programs.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.